Hey, hi, what's up? My name is Adam. Today I want to talk to you guys about why I ended up coming out for a third time. How that situation occurred. So when I was in the 5th grade, I started having a crush on a girl that went to my school, and I, at that point, hadn't really established what being straight or being gay was, and I didn't really identify with anything. Growing up, I always thought that boys and girls were cute. I didn't really have a preference. Basically, I knew that I liked girls when I was in the 6th grade, but I wasn't in a place where I could openly come out about that or openly talk about that. There wasn't a safe space for me at that time to explore my identity. And I was going through so much at the time too. I was living in a foster family, and they were really good to me, but they weren't super okay with that idea of me liking girls. And when I came out as trans too, it was the same thing. But elsewise, they were still a really good family to me, and so I stayed there for about a year, and that was the same year that my mom passed away, and things were just really crazy for me at that time. I was going through so much stuff that I didn't even have a minute to reflect on myself, even though that was the age that I started realizing who I was and realizing who I wanted to be. But I didn't have a minute to kind of step back and look at the whole situation or look at what I wanted to do. I kind of shoved it away for a bit. I had told a couple of my friends, some friends at that time knew that I was interested in girls. And I kind of identified as bisexual at that time. So I think that the first time that I came out was as bisexual when I was very young, and I kind of just knew that, I had feelings for girls. I was supposed to like guys, and I did at the time. I had, guy friends that I would date, and we would go skateboarding and stuff. I don't know. It was different for me. Things were always different. As I got older, I always wanted to impress the girls, and I was really jealous. I found that my friends that were girls started kind of giving all of their attention to the guys in our class, and I wanted their attention more. I was jealous of the guys. I vibed with being bisexual until I was 13 years old. I started coming out when I was 12 years old. It was the end of 2011, and I had a friend named Sasha, and she lived in Newfoundland at the time, and I was in Ontario, so we would Skype, and I remember talking to her online and being like, there's this documentary on YouTube about transgendered children, you should check it out. And she was like, that's really cool, and I think I just out and told her, I was like, I'm a boy, that's what I'm doing, this is what I am, this is what I'm identifying as. And she was super cool with it, and over the next 8 months, I started telling more and more of my friends, I want to change my name, and I want to cut my hair, and I want to change my wardrobe, and I didn't actually start going by Adam until it was the summer of the grade 7 going into grade 8. So I was 13 at the time, and at this point, I knew that I liked girls, I knew that I preferred girls over guys, but I still identified as pansexual, which was sort of what my identity would have been when I came out as bisexual, had I have known what pansexual was. So at the time, I identified as a female to male, pansexual, queer, human. I remember doing a news article with Chex TV, and you can probably still find it somewhere on my channel, and I remember telling them that, I wasn't in a place to judge anyone on their gender or their sex, so I was open to, loving anyone. And at the time, for me, that was true. So I wasn't lying, and I wasn't, Over time, though, I just knew that I wasn't really into guys emotionally or physically at all. I wanted to be their friend, and I saw myself as more of a brother with them. The more I hit puberty, the more I was focusing on girls, and the more I was like, I like girls. So that was the second time I came out. Grade 8, going into grade 8 anyway, I told my dad, I told my family, my friends, and I started going by Adam, and I cut my hair. That was my big one. When I was 16, 17, I was in this really toxic relationship, and I couldn't get out of it, and I wasn't in a place where I could really express myself or what I wanted to do or who I wanted to be. I was very much told, this is how a guy acts, and if you're a guy, then this is what you have to do. And I had lost so much at this point. I had lost my mom, I had lost my dad, I was out living on my own for the first time, I was very vulnerable, and I pretty much fell into all of society's norms of what a guy is supposed to do, and I was like, well, I'm not a girl, so I must be a guy, and if I'm a guy, then I need to do these things, otherwise I'm not a guy, and if I'm not a guy and I'm not a girl, what am I? Of course, that was, abusive and toxic, and I'm really glad that I'm not in that situation anymore, but it did teach me the tools that I have today to be able to express who I really am. And even now, being 2 years out of that relationship, it's still taken me this long to really come out and say, you know, this is who I am, and I'm not that super masculine guy. I'm also not a girl. Bleh. So it was this past year that I came out for a third time, and I started identifying as non-binary. And I sort of am flexible with that term because I do still feel really masculine. I feel like I identify with the male vibe really well. I see myself as a dude, but I also see myself as a non-binary dude. So looking back though, like when I was younger and I was trying to be a girl and it wasn't working for me, and then I came out of that and I was like, okay, well, I'm not a girl, so I must be a boy. And then I started doing that, and I did whatever needed to be done to be seen as the most masculine guy. But that wasn't me either, and now I'm kind of in a place where I don't really care. I stopped kind of binding myself down to a gender, and it's honestly been the most freeing experience that I've had. I came out as non-binary, and that was the third time that I've come out, and hopefully the last. I feel really good about myself right now, though. Like, I feel like it was a long journey to figure out myself, but now that I'm here, I feel really good about it, and I'm glad that, you know, I took all of those different steps because I've experienced so many different things, and I feel like I've lived so many different lives. I feel like I'm so much more empathetic towards people that are in their journey, and, you know, I remember growing up, and I remember people coming out as transgendered, and then being like, no, never mind, that's not me, and people were like, you can't do that, you're the reason that trans people are hated on, and, like, this is why trans people don't exist, because you went back into the closet. It's just... Nah. So I'm really glad that I've, you know, gone through what I've been through in order to get here today, because now I feel really good. And I never thought that, you know, at 19 years old, it would take me 19 years to figure that out. When I was 13 and I came out as trans, like, I really thought I had it all figured out, and everyone was like, wow, you're so young, and, like, you're so in tune with yourself, and you know who you are, and that's great. And it was so cool that I was able to express myself in that way when I was that young. But I still had so much growing to do, and I still had so much learning to do, and I was still in a place where I was told what a guy was, and so I projected that because I was like, well, I'm a guy, so I need to. Obviously, if you're a guy, you don't need to be masculine. It was something that was really pressured on me when I was younger because I was a trans guy. Maybe it's just me, but I do feel like there's a lot of trans guys out there that feel that pressure to have those masculine characteristics along with their gender identity. For me, that was a real barrier, and I couldn't put my finger on why, because I wasn't a girl, so why was being a guy so hard? It was weird. I really do feel like I've seen it all. Like, I was born, the doctors told my parents, you know, it's a girl. Everyone was ecstatic. I was the youngest in my family. I was the only girl. I have one set of grandparents where I would have been their only granddaughter, and so my family went through a lot of things, I feel, when I came out, because transgender wasn't something that was talked about in my family growing up. It wasn't. And I definitely have a very open-minded family, and I definitely have a very loving and accepting family, because I still talk to them today, and they're still there for me, and I couldn't, you know, I wouldn't change it for the world. When I was younger, it just never really crossed my mind that, you know, if you don't feel like a girl and you don't feel like a guy, then, like, maybe you're just not, and, like, that's okay. I definitely felt like I had to be one or the other, and so when I went from not being a girl and I went to identifying as a guy, I was like, I have to do this in full. Like, I have to be the manliest man that there is. Once I got out of that toxic relationship, I did get into a healthy relationship, and I was able to sort of express myself better and look for myself more. When I was actually living by myself as opposed to with my partner, I had a lot of time to look into myself and learn about the things that I wanted and the person that I wanted to be, the person that I wanted to reflect to others. And I knew in my heart that, like, this boy that I was portraying wasn't who I was, and I knew that it was false, and that I was going around and I was doing these speeches and I was doing these events, and I was telling people, you know, like, I'm transgendered and, like, it's okay to be yourself, but I wasn't being myself at all. I was being, like, a very extra version of myself. I was basically like, if I act like the boyest boy that there is, then there's no way that anyone can tell me that I'm a girl. Coming out as non-binary was really confusing for me because I was still learning about it when I was like, yes, this is it. Like, the light bulb went off. I couldn't not hop on the train and be like, this is me, this is what I've always been, even though I don't fully know everything that this entails. Coming out as non-binary has been one of the most freeing experiences. It's been a very confusing process and a very big learning process, but I'm so happy that I've been down this path the way that I have been. I feel so confident in where I am right now. Like, this is me, this is who I am. Like, I feel good right now where I am. I don't really force anything onto myself anymore. I kind of just take what I want to take from where I want to take it. I don't have that pressure to be masculine in the back of my head. I think one of the greatest things about coming out as non-binary for me too was that I've sort of stopped gendering things altogether. Like, I like nail art, and before I would not have allowed myself to like nail art because to me that was something that was feminine, and when I was identifying as a male, I couldn't do anything that was relatively feminine. Now when I think of nail art, it's not something that I think of as like a feminine thing, it's just something that I genuinely think is cool. And like, there's been so many times that I've been told that, like, you know, if you don't know how to change a tire, you're not a guy. When I came out, and I was in grade 9, I took an auto class because I thought that, you know, I needed to know how to change a tire in order to be a man. That's something that I regret. I took something that I was not interested in whatsoever because there were people on the outside telling me that that's what I needed to do to be a guy, and I fell into that. I was that willing to put my own wants and needs aside to make sure that society looked at me the way that I wanted to be viewed. Now it doesn't matter. Now it doesn't matter if someone thinks that something's masculine or if someone thinks that something's feminine. All of that stuff is bogus to me now, and it's so great because I can do anything that I want and I can feel any way that I want to feel and not feel bad about it, and it's been so relieving. And I get things all the time where people are like, well, your bio says you're a guy, or like, Adam's a dude's name, and like, why don't you get a gender-neutral name? And like, I don't feel like changing my name again. I really do identify with Adam, and that's my name. I think that there wouldn't have even been a need to come out if it wasn't like, I need society to stop pressuring me to do things that I don't feel comfortable doing. I really feel like I've come out as everything in the book. I've been bisexual, I've been pansexual, I've been straight, I've been transgendered female to male, I've been transgendered non-binary, I've been transgendered masculine non-binary. And at one time, everyone thought I was a sweet little straight girl. I guess my point to this video was that, like, wherever you're at in life right now, like, you're fine, and, like, everything's going to be fine. No matter how much changes over a period of time, things end up being okay. Life is constantly changing, and we're constantly being introduced to and learning new things. We're constantly evolving as ourselves. Like, we don't just know who we are straight out of the womb. Like, it doesn't go like that. We are learning, we're growing, we're doing what we're supposed to be doing. I think a lot of us are tied down to the ideas that people had for us when we were younger. I know that for me, it was really hard for me to come out as transgender to begin with because my family was really looking forward to my wedding, and my dad specifically, he was really looking forward to walking his only daughter down the aisle, and that was something that took a long time for him to sort of realize wasn't going to happen. And when I first came out, like, that was heartbreaking for me, and I was like, I can't believe that I'm doing this to him. As if it was my own fault, like, as if I chose to do this, as if it was, like, me maliciously being like, haha, I hate my family, just want to mess everyone up. Nonetheless, years have passed by, and things have always turned out to be okay. The things that I thought would kill me have ended up being okay a year later, and I've realized that over my teenage years, that no matter what happens, it ends up being fine. Like, things just work themselves out, they just do. I think that's what helps me hold on now, is the fact that I'm like, even if I'm in my darkest point, it goes away, it stops, like, it does get better. And I've seen it happen so many times in so many different aspects of my life. My mom passed away when I was 11 years old. That was my first time that I thought that I was never gonna see the light again, and then I did. And then my dad passed away when I was 15 years old, and I thought that I was never going to see the light again, and I did. And I thought that I was never going to see the light when I came out as transgender, and I thought that I was never going to see the light when I was in an abusive relationship, and I thought that I was never going to see the light when I dropped out of high school. And everything has ended up being okay. You're so okay. Everything's going to be okay. So yeah, that's all I really wanted to say today. Thanks for watching. I hope you guys liked it. Talk to your friends about it. Talk to me down below. Have a good week.